The pen didn't shake in her hand. 7 months pregnant, Sophia Thorne looked not at her husband, but at the skyline of Boston from their penthouse apartment. The manila envelope on the marble island was thin, but it was heavier than their entire, hollow marriage. Her husband, Marcus, was on the phone, laughing, confirming a dinner reservation she knew wasn't for her. He thought she was nesting. He thought she was weak. He had no idea she'd just spent a month dismantling his empire, brick by fraudulent brick. He was about to learn the difference between a wife and a liability. The Thorne penthouse felt less like a home and more like a high-end showroom, a place where coasters were mandatory and emotions were vacuum-sealed. Sophia Thorne, née Roman, had once been dazzled by it, by Marcus Thorne, by the whirlwind romance that elevated her from a struggling art curator to the wife of one of Boston's most aggressive young entrepreneurs. Now, 7 months into a high-risk pregnancy, the gleam had faded. The floor-to-ceiling windows only showed her how high she was and how far she had to fall. Marcus was a man built of charm and ambition. He was handsome in the way of expensive suits and inherited confidence. Lately, that charm was directed exclusively at his phone. He was always closing a deal, meeting with investors, or handling a crisis. Sophia, meanwhile, was handling the silent, creeping dread that had become her only companion. The lies were small at first, a scent on his suit jacket that wasn't his cologne or her perfume. Late-night board meetings that stretched until 3 a.m. The way he'd angle his phone away from her on the sofa, a gesture as subtle and as sharp as a paper cut. Sophia was quiet, but she was not stupid. She was the daughter of a forensic accountant. She had been raised on the gospel of trust, but verify. The verification came on a Tuesday. Marcus was in the shower, singing. His personal laptop, the one that was, for his eyes only, was open on his desk. A notification pinged. It wasn't a text. It was a calendar reminder from a shared account he'd clearly forgotten he had. Chloe, final walkthrough. Location, 114 Beacon St., Apt 6B. Notes, surprise for C. Make sure the champagne is on ice. Call the jeweler, ref 884B, to confirm delivery. Sophia's blood ran cold. 114. Beacon St., that wasn't an office building. It was a new, obscenely expensive condominium complex. She navigated to his email. He hadn't just bought a condo. He had leased it, fully furnished, for 2 years. A quick search for the jeweler's reference number brought up a file on his hard drive. The receipt for a 5-carat canary diamond ring. A ring she had never seen. But the final, devastating blow was in his travel folder. He had booked 2 first-class tickets to St. Bart's, departing in 3 weeks, the time she would be entering her 8th month, forbidden from flying. The passenger names were Marcus Thorne and Chloe Bennett. She didn't cry. The shock was too sharp, too cold. She placed a hand on her swollen belly where her baby kicked, oblivious. This wasn't just infidelity. This was a parallel life. He wasn't just cheating. He was investing. He was taking the money that should have been securing their child's future and spending it on a mistress. She heard the shower turn off. Sophia closed the laptop, her movements precise. She walked back to the kitchen, her heart a cold, heavy stone in her chest. When Marcus walked out, wrapped in a plush robe, he smiled. "Morning, Soph. Big day. This new fund is about to launch." "That's nice, dear," Sophia said, sipping her decaf tea. He paused, sensing the chill. "You okay? You look pale." "Just pregnancy," she said, giving him a thin smile. "I think I'll go visit my mother today." "Good idea," he said, already checking his phone. "I'll be late. Don't wait up." "I won't," she promised. She didn't go to her mother's. She went to a nondescript office building downtown. The name on the door was discreet. Harding and Associates. Private counsel. She was meeting with Alistair Harding, the most feared and most expensive divorce attorney in Boston. But Mr. Harding was not her lawyer. He was her father-in-law's. Arthur Thorne Sr. was old money. He didn't just own a company, he was the company. Marcus, for all his bluster, was just the face of Thorne Capital. Arthur was the foundation, the steel beams, the vault. He was a stern, imposing man who despised two things: weakness and scandal. Marcus was proving to be a spectacular source of both. Sophia sat in a leather chair opposite Arthur's massive mahogany desk. Alistair Harding, the lawyer, stood by the window. "He's careless," Arthur said, his voice a low rumble. He wasn't asking, he was stating. "He's building a new life, Arthur," Sophia said, her voice quiet but firm. She pushed a thin folder across the desk, not with emails, not with texts, but with bank statements. "He's been pulling from the Legacy Discretionary Fund, the one you set up for your grandchildren." Arthur's eyes, a pale, icy blue, narrowed. He opened the folder. He saw the wire transfer for the condo lease. He saw the $150,000 charge from the jeweler. He saw the St. Bart's tickets. "Chloe Bennett," Arthur spat. "That consultant from the art gallery he's been investing in. He thinks I'm a fool." "He thinks we are," Sophia corrected gently. Alistair Harding finally spoke. "Mrs. Thorne, Sophia, your husband has significant personal assets. In a standard divorce, given the infidelity, you would be entitled to a very generous settlement. Alimony, child support." "I don't want a settlement," Sophia said. Arthur looked up, a flicker of new respect in his eyes. "What do you want, girl?" "I want what he was spending. I want my child's future, the one he was giving away." She leaned forward. "Marcus is your CEO, but you hold the controlling shares. He runs the company, but the company's assets, they're not his, are they?" A slow, cold smile spread across Arthur Thorne's face. "No, they are not." Harding stepped forward, opening his own briefcase. "The structure of Thorne Capital is unique. It was established by Arthur Sr. as an ironclad family trust. Marcus has the title of CEO and a significant salary. He has voting rights on the board. But he does not, personally, own the core assets. The properties, the majority stock, the investment portfolios, they are all held by the trust." "And the trust's primary beneficiary?" Sophia asked, already knowing the answer. "The Thorne bloodline," Arthur said. "Specifically the next generation, your child." "There is," Harding added, "a clause. We call it the morality clause. Arthur Sr. had it inserted in the event his son turned out to be, well, a fool," Arthur finished. "The clause states that if the CEO, Marcus, engages in behavior deemed a gross moral failing or actions that bring disrepute upon the Thorne name and jeopardize the legacy, the board can vote to transfer stewardship of the trust." "And who is the board?" Sophia asked. "Myself," said Arthur, "Alistair, and my sister, who is in a convent in Italy and votes exactly as I tell her to." Sophia sat back. "So he has nothing. He has a title, a salary, and a company car, the penthouse we live in. Owned by the trust," Harding confirmed. "The Hamptons house, the jet. Trust, trust, trust." The air in the room was still. Sophia finally understood. Marcus wasn't a king. He was a prince, living on an allowance, and he'd just been caught stealing from the treasury. "What do you propose, Sophia?" Arthur asked. "I don't want to destroy the company. That hurts my child. I want to protect it." She looked at Harding. "I want you to draft divorce papers, a simple clean split, no alimony, no claim on his personal assets." "That's madness," Harding said. He'll sign it in a heartbeat. You'll be left with nothing." "He'll think I'm left with nothing," Sophia corrected. "He'll sign it because he's arrogant, and he wants to get rid of me so he can move in with her. He'll sign it because he thinks he has all the power." And while he's signing, Arthur picked up, the plan forming. "The board will be having an emergency meeting. We will enact the morality clause." "Enact it? And do what?" Sophia asked. "The clause allows the board to reassign stewardship of the trust to a more suitable guardian of the legacy," Arthur said, looking directly at her. Sophia's breath hitched. "You mean me?" "You are the mother of the sole beneficiary," Harding said, a note of admiration in his voice. "You have shown prudence. You came to the head of the family, not to the tabloids. You are legally the perfect choice." "So," Sophia said, standing up, the plan solidifying in her mind. "First, I file for divorce. He thinks he's won. He thinks he's free." "And then," Arthur said, standing with her, "we take everything else." The next 4 weeks were a masterclass in deception. Sophia played the role of the oblivious, nesting, pregnant wife to perfection. She discussed paint colors for the nursery. She went to her obstetrician appointments, letting Marcus drive her, where he'd sit in the waiting room, impatiently texting. "Everything looks perfect, Mrs. Thorne," Dr. Reeves would say. "Just try to keep your stress levels down." "I'm doing my best, Doctor," Sophia would reply, with a smile that never reached her eyes. Meanwhile, in the quiet afternoons when Marcus was at the office, a phrase she now knew meant at 1:18 Beacon Sit. Sophia was in near-constant meetings with Alistair Harding. They were not drafting a divorce, they were executing a corporate takeover. "The first step is to create the new entity," Harding explained, his pen flying across a legal pad. "We can't just hand Thorne Capital to you. It would be a legal nightmare. Instead, we are forming the Thorne Legacy Trust." "And this new trust?" Sophia asked. "Is a holding company. On the day of the transfer, the board will vote to move 100% of the core assets from the old trust into this new one. The properties, the stock, the art collection, everything. The old trust, the one Marcus thinks he controls, will be left as an empty shell. It will contain exactly one asset, his employment contract as CEO. So he'll be the CEO of nothing? Precisely. A king with no kingdom, Harding confirmed. The Thorne Legacy Trust, however, will be entirely under your control as sole trustee for the benefit of your child, Nathaniel Thorne." Sophia startled. I haven't chosen a name." "Arthur mentioned he was fond of it," Harding said, not looking up. Sophia was learning that her father-in-law did not suggest. He ordained. She found she didn't mind. The most difficult part was the waiting. Every day, she had to smile at Marcus. She had to endure his casual, distracted kisses, knowing his lips had been on another woman just moments before. She had to listen to him complain about the stress of his work, knowing he was spending thousands on jewelry she would never wear. The mistress, Chloe Bennett, was growing bolder. Sophia started getting hang-up calls. Once, a box of maternity clothes she hadn't ordered arrived at the penthouse, all in sizes far too small. A petty, cruel little message. Sophia simply donated them. She was moving chess pieces. Chloe was knocking over the checkers. The Friday before the St. Bart's trip, everything was in place. The board meeting was scheduled for the following Monday at 10 a.m. Harding had drafted the divorce papers. They were almost offensively simple. Irreconcilable differences. Both parties waive any claim to alimony or assets beyond their own personal bank accounts. "He will be suspicious," Sophia worried. "He'll know I wouldn't just walk away with nothing." "He will," Harding assured her, "because you are going to tell him you're having an affair." Sophia recoiled. What? He has to believe you want to be free, that you have your own secret. He'll be so overjoyed at his own luck that you're not claiming infidelity. He'll sign anything to get you out the door before your lover can advise you to take him to the cleaners. That's brilliant, Sophia breathed. It's also technically true, Harding said. You are leaving him for another. Your child. That Friday evening, Marcus came home, energized, triumphant. The fund is launched. We're celebrating tonight, Soph. I'll take you to L'Espalier. Sophia, who had been packing a small suitcase in their bedroom, just looked at him. I can't, Marcus. What? Don't be boring. It's a big night. She zipped the bag. It was the same bag she'd arrived with 3 years ago. I'm leaving you, Marcus. His face went from annoyance to confusion. What? Is this about the late nights? Soph, the business is... It's not about the business. She walked past him into the grand living room. She placed the manila envelope on the marble island. I'm pregnant and I'm tired and I've met someone. The silence was deafening. Marcus's brain visibly short-circuited. He was trying to process her betraying him. You... What? He stammered. I've met someone, she repeated, her voice flat. He wants me. He wants this baby. I'm going to him. Marcus's confusion warped into a dark, relieved anger. You dare? While you're pregnant with my child? I don't want anything from you, Sophia said, sliding the envelope toward him. Just my freedom. I've signed them. You signed them. And I'm gone tonight. No lawyers, no fighting. You can have your life. I'll have mine. He snatched the envelope, tearing it open. He read the terms. His eyes widened. No alimony, no claim on the house, no assets. He was getting off scot-free. He was being handed the perfect escape. You're just leaving? He said, trying to sound outraged, but the relief was pouring off him. I am. He stared at her, then at the papers. He was thinking of Chloe, of St. Bart's, of the Canary Diamond. He was free. Fine, he spat, grabbing a pen. Good riddance. Don't you ever come to me for a dime, you understand? This child is... I'll have my lawyers contact you about that. Whatever you say, Marcus. He signed his name with a flourish. Get out of my house. It's your house, Sophia said, picking up her signed copy and her suitcase. She walked to the private elevator, her back straight. The doors chimed shut, leaving Marcus Thorne alone in his penthouse, a grin of pure, unadulterated victory spreading across his face. He'd won. He had everything. Marcus couldn't believe his luck. He was free. He poured himself a glass of 30-year-old Macallan, his Macallan from his bar in his penthouse. He dialed Chloe's number. It's done, he said, his voice brimming with laughter. What's done? Chloe's voice was pouty. You were supposed to be here an hour ago. She's gone. The Ice Queen finally cracked. She left me. There was a squeal on the other end. She left you? You mean, we're free? Better than free. Get this, she's having an affair. Can you believe the nerve? She's pregnant with my kid and stepping out. Oh my God, Marcus. That's... What about the divorce? Is she going to fight you? She already signed. Took nothing. Nothing. She just wanted out. She must be terrified I'd find out and take the baby. He took a long, victorious sip. She's gone, Chloe. The penthouse is all ours. St. Bart's is on. Our life starts now. Chloe was screaming with delight. I'm coming over. No, wait. You come here. Come to our place. Let's celebrate properly. I'll be there in 20, Marcus said. He hung up, feeling like the king of the world. He was free of his boring, pregnant wife. He was off to the Caribbean with his stunning mistress. And it hadn't cost him a cent. He spent the weekend in a blissful fog at 114 Beacon Saint. He and Chloe celebrated their victory, drinking champagne and making plans. They'd redecorate the penthouse. They'd host a massive welcome party. He'd finally be able to live his life without Sophia's judgmental, quiet presence. She was always such a downer, Chloe said, lounging on the new sofa in lingerie. So, dull. You need someone vibrant, baby. Someone who can keep up. And I've got her, Marcus said, kissing the canary diamond on her finger. On Monday morning, he woke up in Chloe's bed. He felt powerful. He had a 10 a.m. board meeting, a routine quarterly review. But he wasn't worried. His father was getting old, and Harding was a glorified bean counter. He, Marcus, was the rainmaker. He strolled into the Thorn Capital boardroom at 10:02 a.m., coffee in hand. The mood was wrong. His father, Arthur Sr., was at the head of the table, a place he hadn't occupied in years. Alistair Harding was beside him. The third board member, his aunt's proxy, was on a secure video line. "You're late," was all Arthur said. "Sorry, Father. Traffic," Marcus said, taking his seat. "All right, let's get to the quarterly projections. We're looking at a 15% upside in the new fund." "We are not here to discuss the fund," Arthur interrupted, his voice like granite. "We are here to enact Article 7, Section 4 of the Thorn Family Trust Agreement. The morality clause." Marcus's blood turned to ice water. "What? What are you talking about?" "We are talking about 114 Beacon Cent, apartment 6B, Harding said, reading from a document. "We are talking about the lease taken out in your name, paid for by the Legacy Discretionary Fund. We are talking about the unauthorized expenditure of $150,000 for a personal gift. We are talking about infidelity, gross misconduct, and bringing disrepute upon the Thorn name." Marcus gaped. You've been spying on me? This is Sophia. She's a vindictive. She told you." "Mrs. Thorn provided documentation. Yes," Arthur said. "She came to me, as the head of this family, to protect her child's inheritance. An inheritance you were spending on your mistress." I'll pay it back," Marcus stammered. "It was a mistake, a momentary lapse. It was a betrayal," Arthur said. "The board has before it a motion to enact the clause and transfer 100% of the assets from the Thorn Family Trust to the newly formed Thorn Legacy Trust, effective immediately. All in favour?" "Aye," said Arthur. "Aye," said Harding. "Aye," came the tinny voice from the speaker. "The motion passes," Arthur said, banging a small ceremonial gavel. Marcus was hyperventilating. What does that mean? Transfer assets? What assets? I run this company." "You run this company in name," Harding said, adjusting his glasses. "As of this moment, Thorn Capital is a shell. Its assets, this building, the name, the funds, the properties, the jet, are now the sole property of the Thorn Legacy Trust. You are the CEO of nothing. You can't do this. This is my company, my name." "It is my name," Arthur corrected, standing, "and you are no longer worthy of it." What am I left with?" Marcus whispered, the world tilting. "Per your employment contract, you are entitled to your personal salary," Harding said, checking a folder, "which is $250,000 per year. You have your 401k, your personal checking account, and your Lexus. The penthouse, the Bentley, and the Hamptons estate are property of the new trust. You will be expected to vacate the penthouse by the end of the day. $250,000. It sounded like a fortune to most, but to Marcus, it was a death sentence. His lifestyle cost that much a month. "Sophia," he choked out. She planned this." "She protected her son," Arthur said, "which is more than you did." Marcus's phone buzzed. It was Chloe, a picture of a wedding dress. He looked at the phone, then at his father's back as he and Harding walked out, and he finally understood. He wasn't the king. He was the fool. Chloe Bennet was having the best day of her life. She woke up in their condo. Marcus, for the first time, wasn't rushing off. He'd stayed until he had to go to his boring meeting. She'd spent the morning shopping online, using the platinum card Marcus had given her. A wedding dress. Why not? Sophia was out of the picture. It was only a matter of time. She was booking a hair appointment when her phone buzzed. It was Marcus. "Baby," she answered. "I was just thinking about you. I saw the perfect Vera Wang, and—" "Shut up, Chloe," Marcus hissed. His voice was unrecognizable. It was thin, reedy, terrified. "What? What's wrong? You sound awful." He knows everything. My father. He knows what? About us? So what? Marcus, you're a grown man. You're divorced. Who cares what your daddy thinks?" "You don't understand," Marcus yelled, and she could hear him pacing. "The company, it's not mine. It was never mine." "What are you talking about? You're the CEO. I'm the CEO of nothing," he screamed. "It's a trust, Chloe. A goddamn trust. He invoked a clause. He took it all away. The house, the cars, the money. All of it." Chloe sat down hard on the sofa. "What do you mean, all of it? You're still rich. You're Marcus Thorne. I have my salary. That's it. My $250,000 salary. He cut me off." Chloe's brain went blank. $250,000. That was fine. But it wasn't rich. It wasn't penthouse and private jet rich. It wasn't 5-carat diamond rich. "But this condo," she whispered, looking around at the expensive furniture. "The lease is terminated. It's in the trust's name. They're taking it back." "All of it." "The car he gave you? It's a company lease. They're picking it up." "No," Chloe said. "It wasn't a protest. It was a denial." "No, you're lying. This is a joke." "It's not a joke," he roared. That snake, Sophia. She did this. She planned it all. She's been working with my father for weeks." Chloe's online shopping cart was still open on her laptop. She looked at the $30,000 dress. An alert popped up from her banking app. The platinum card. Declined. "Marcus," she said, her voice trembling. "The card. It's not working." "Of course it's not working, you idiot," he snapped. "It's a company card. It's all gone." The room started to spin. She wasn't going to be Mrs. Thorne. She wasn't going to St. Bart's. She was the mistress of a man who made $250K a year and had just been fired by his father. The man she'd slept with wasn't a billionaire. He was a glorified middle manager. "But you told me," she started. "I thought. I am. This is temporary. I'm going to fix this. I'm going to sue." Marcus was rambling, trying to convince himself. "I need to see Sophia. She has to be behind this. She has to—" "Where is she?" Chloe demanded, a new, cold fury replacing her panic. "Where is that pregnant cow?" "I don't know. She's— Harding. The lawyer. There must be a final meeting. A transfer of assets. I'm going there now. I'm going to stop this." "I'm coming with you," Chloe said, grabbing her keys. She wasn't losing this. She was going to confront that mousy, pathetic wife and she didn't know what. But she wasn't going down without a fight. She had earned this life. The boardroom at Harding & Associates was even more intimidating than the one at Thorne Capital. It was old world, dark wood, leather-bound books that were actually read, and a silence that felt expensive. Sophia was at the head of the table. She looked different. She wasn't in her usual beige cardigans. She was in a tailored, dark blue maternity dress that looked like armor. Her hair was pulled back. She was flanked by Alistair Harding and 2 other stone-faced lawyers. Her father-in-law, Arthur, was on a video screen, observing. The door burst open, and Marcus stumbled in, his suit rumpled, his face blotchy. Behind him, like a furious shadow, was Chloe, dressed in spike heels and a red dress that was entirely inappropriate for 11 a.m. on a Monday. "Sophia!" Marcus yelled. You thief! You can't do this!" Sophia didn't flinch. She just looked at him, her expression one of mild disappointment. "Marcus, you're late. Again. Please, sit. Or don't. It doesn't matter." "Don't you dare talk to him like that!" Chloe shrieked, pointing a manicured finger at Sophia. "You think you can just steal his money?" Alistair Harding cleared his throat. "Miss Bennet, you are not party to this meeting. You have no legal standing. I must ask you to leave." "I'm not going anywhere," Chloe snapped. "This is my life you're destroying." "On the contrary, Miss Bennet," Sophia said, her voice cutting through the hysteria. "You are merely the expense. The reason this all came to light. You were never part of the life at all." "This is insane," Marcus pleaded, turning to the video screen. "Father, you can't let her do this. I'm your son." "You were my son," Arthur's voice boomed from the speaker, making Chloe jump. "You are now just a man who betrayed his wife, his child, and his legacy. The transfer is complete. This is just a signing formality." Harding pushed a final, thick document toward Marcus. "This is a non-disclosure agreement and a waiver of litigation, Mr. Thorne. It stipulates that in exchange for your continued, though diminished salary, you will not contest the board's decision or bring any lawsuit against the Thorne Legacy Trust, its trustee, or Thorne Capital." "Trustee?" Marcus said, his eyes scanning the page. Who is the trustee?" "I am," Sophia said simply. The blood drained from Marcus's face. You control everything? The house, the company, everything." "On behalf of my son," Sophia corrected. "Your father's grandchild, the only thing that matters in all of this." "No," Marcus whispered. He sank into a chair. He was ruined. But Chloe was not done. The full picture was finally clear to her. The man she'd attached herself to was worthless. The woman she'd mocked held all the cards, all the money, all the power, was now in the hands of the pregnant wife. "You bitch," Chloe hissed, her face contorted. "You planned this. You trapped him. You probably faked the pregnancy." Sophia's calm finally broke. She stood up, her belly a prominent, proud curve. "Get her out. You... Chloe was hyperventilating now, the reality of her loss crashing down. The condo was gone. The car was gone. The platinum card was gone. The St. Bart's trip was gone. The 5-carat diamond on her finger was, she suddenly realized, probably just a very expensive loan from a company she no longer had access to. She looked at Marcus, who was just sitting there, a broken, useless man. She looked at Sophia, who was powerful, rich, and pregnant with the heir to the entire fortune. The condo," Chloe whimpered. The ring." Harding looked at her over his glasses. "The ring, Miss Bennet, was purchased with funds from the Legacy Discretionary Fund. As such, it is an asset of the Thorne Legacy Trust. You will be expected to return it. A courier will be at your apartment. Oh, I'm sorry. The Trust's apartment, this afternoon to collect it." That was the final blow. The last, glittering symbol of her win was being repossessed. She saw her entire future evaporate. The lunches, the parties, the envy of her friends, all gone, replaced by nothing. She wasn't just back to where she started. She was notorious. She was the woman who had been publicly, spectacularly, fired as a mistress. No, she breathed, clutching her chest. No, it's not. The room was tilting. The smug faces of the lawyers, Marcus's pathetic, empty stare, and Sophia's cold, victorious calm. It was all too much. Chloe Bennet's eyes rolled back in her head, and she collapsed, a heap of red silk and broken dreams, onto the expensive Persian rug. There was a beat of silence. Marcus didn't even look at her. He just picked up the pen, his hand shaking, and signed the paper. Sophia looked down at the unconscious woman, then at her husband. Mr. Harding, perhaps you should call 911 for her and security. For him. He's no longer allowed on the premises. She turned, collected her purse, and walked out of the room, not once looking back. The silence in the boardroom after Chloe's collapse was a heavy, suffocating thing. It was broken not by a gasp, but by the quiet, professional click of Alistair Harding's briefcase. He snapped it shut, his face impassive. "Security," he said into his desk intercom, his voice perfectly level. "We have a medical situation in Boardroom C, and a trespasser to be removed." Marcus didn't move. He sat hunched over the table, the signed NDA, a meaningless scribble under his limp hand. He was staring at the dark wood grain, as if trying to find a pattern in the ruins of his life. He didn't even look at the woman he'd supposedly loved, who was now a heap of limp silk and panic on the floor. Sophia, however, watched the entire pathetic tableau. She watched as 2 uniformed security guards entered, followed by a pair of EMTs. The guards flanked Marcus, who didn't seem to notice. The EMTs, meanwhile, began to work on Chloe. "What's your name, ma'am?" one asked, lightly tapping her cheek. Chloe's eyes fluttered open. The first thing she saw was not Marcus, but the looming, indifferent faces of the paramedics. The second thing she saw was Sophia, standing by the door, purse in hand, watching. The humiliation was so profound, it was almost a physical blow. I, she stammered, trying to sit up. "Just relax, ma'am. You fainted. Blood pressure's all over the place," the EMT said. "We're going to take you in. Just a precaution." As they helped her onto a gurney, her eyes locked with Sophia's. In that moment, Chloe's face, stripped of its arrogance and makeup-caked confidence, looked small, petty, and terrified. She had bet everything on a man, and the man had turned out to be a hollow shell. Sophia, she realized, had bet on herself. "Mr. Thorne," one of the guards said, placing a hand on Marcus's shoulder. Marcus flinched, finally looking up. "What? Get your hands off me." "Sir, this is private property. As you are no longer an employee of Thorne Capital or its subsidiaries, and you are not a party to the Thorne Legacy Trust, you are being asked to leave." This is my building," he whispered. "The building is an asset of the trust, sir. Please, we can do this quietly." Marcus looked at Harding. He looked at the video screen where his father's face had been, now just a blank, black void. He looked at Sophia. She simply held his gaze, her expression not one of hatred or even pity. It was one of finality, like closing a book. He stood up, his legs shaking. The guards gently guided him out, not through the grand main entrance, but through a side door, the one that led to the service elevator. He was, quite literally, being taken out with the trash. Sophia turned to Alistair Harding. "Thank you, Alistair, for everything." "Mrs. Thorne," Harding said, inclining his head. "I believe the correct title is now Madame Trustee. Your car is waiting downstairs. The security detail I hired, the Greystone Group, is already in place. They will be with you 24/7 until we are certain your former husband fully understands his new reality." "Good," Sophia said, placing a protective hand on her belly. "First, please have the locks on the penthouse changed. All of them. Private elevator, service doors, everything. I want a new code, a new key, a new system by the time I get home." "It's already being done," Harding replied. "Second," Sophia continued, "have Marcus's personal belongings packed. His clothes, his toys, everything. Send them to wherever he's going." "He has no forwarding address," Harding noted. "His last known location was 114 Beacon Saint, which is no longer his." "Then find a respectable, short-term corporate apartment. Something in the seaport, perhaps. Pay for 3 months. Have his things sent there. I want him gone, Alistair. But I will not have my child's father sleeping on a park bench. The optics are unseemly. Bill the expense to my personal account, not the trust." Harding raised an eyebrow, impressed. It was a move of pure, cold strategy, not kindness, brand management. "As you wish, Madam Trustee. And Miss Bennet." "Miss Bennet is a stranger," Sophia said, walking to the door. "I have no idea who she is." Chloe was discharged from the hospital 3 hours later. Panic attack and dehydration was the official diagnosis. They gave her a small paper cup of water and a bill she couldn't pay. She used her phone to call a ride share, the cost of which made her wince. She had to get back to 114 Beacon. She had to get her things, her clothes, her jewellery, the ring. She arrived at the glittering glass entrance, but her key fob, the one she used to flash so proudly, blinked red. Access denied. The doorman, a man named Frank, who had always accepted her generous Christmas tips, stepped out, his face a mask of professional regret. "Miss Bennet, I'm afraid I can't let you up." "Frank, what are you talking about? I live here," she snapped, her voice still raw. "My apologies, Ma'am. We received a notification an hour ago from the leasing agent. The tenant of 6B has been changed. Your name is no longer on the resident list." "That's ridiculous. Marcus Thorne pays—" "The lease is held by a corporate trust, Ma'am. Not Mr. Thorne." Frank pointed to a single, medium-sized cardboard box sitting by the valet stand. "A courier and a security guard from the trust's representatives were here. They packed your personal effects. The rest of the apartment's contents were, and I quote, assets of the trust." Chloe's blood ran cold. She walked over to the box. It was taped shut. She tore it open. Inside was her toothbrush, her makeup bag, the half-used items, a few changes of clothes, the non-designer ones, and her high school yearbook. It was the box of a college student, not a future billionaire's wife. "Where is—" she whispered, her hands rummaging frantically. "Where is the jewellery, the bags, the ring, the canary diamond?" "The gentleman from the trust took inventory, Ma'am. He said any items purchased by the trust were being returned to the trust. That included the ring on the vanity. It was gone, all of it, repossessed. She was left with nothing but a $40 cab bill and a box of memories she'd tried to escape." She sank down onto the curb, right next to the valet stand where she used to pull up in her, least she now realized, convertible, and for the first time, she truly, utterly wept. When Sophia returned to the penthouse, the silence was absolute. The air felt cleaner, lighter. The oppressive stale scent of Marcus's cigars and arrogance was already fading. A man from the security team was just finishing installing a new, high-tech control panel by the elevator. "You are all set, Mrs. Thorne," he said. "No one gets in without this fob, or a direct voice authorization from you." "Thank you, Michael," she said, running her hand along the cool, smooth metal. She walked through the vast apartment. It was a mausoleum of a life she'd never really wanted. She went straight to Marcus's game room. The room was a monument to his adolescent ego. 3 massive televisions, a black leather pit sofa, a fully stocked bar with garish neon signs, and a glass-walled humidor. It stank of smoke and entitlement. She picked up her phone, not calling a decorator, but a demolition crew. "Yes, I'd like to schedule a gut renovation," she said, her voice echoing in the large, empty room. "I want everything out, down to the studs, the bar, the electronics, everything. I want it sterile by tomorrow." She hung up and made a second call, this time to a high-end nursery designer. "Hello, I'd like to design a room," she said, a small smile touching her lips for the first time. "The theme is quiet strength. I'm thinking pale yellows, natural woods, and the softest carpet you can find. And one entire wall. I'd like it to be a mural of the Boston skyline, but seen from a park, not a penthouse." She spent the next 2 months in a whirlwind of creation. She didn't just redecorate, she reclaimed. She sold Marcus's ostentatious wine collection, and the proceeds went into a new account. She found the canary diamond ring, the real one, in Marcus's desk drawer, the one he'd bought for Chloe but hadn't had the chance to give her yet. She didn't pause. She sent it to Alistair Harding with a simple note. "Sell this. Put the money in my son's college fund." She worked tirelessly with Harding and Arthur Sr. to restructure the company. She was, as Arthur noted, a natural. She was her father's daughter, a forensic accountant at heart. She saw the rot in the company's books, the vanity projects, the consulting fees to shell companies, many of which had names like CB Ventures, the obscene personal expenses disguised as corporate overhead. She was ruthless. She was precise. She was, as the new board members would learn, completely unbothered by ego. She wasn't a CEO. She was the owner. She hired a new president to run the day-to-day operations, a quiet, brilliant man from MIT named David Chen, who had a reputation for ethics and sustainable growth. Her instructions to him were simple. "I don't want to be the biggest company. I want to be the strongest. No more pirate raids. We are building a lighthouse." 3 weeks before her due date, she was in a board meeting, reviewing the Q3 projections, when she felt the first, sharp contraction. She didn't panic. She simply nodded to Mr. Chen. "David, you will have to table the discussion on the new green energy fund until Monday. My son appears to be on a deadline." Nathaniel Arthur Thorne was born at 4:02 a.m. on a Tuesday. He was 7 pounds, 8 ounces, and had a shock of dark hair. Sophia, exhausted but lucid, held him to her chest, the tiny, perfect weight of him anchoring her to this new, terrifying, and powerful reality. She was in the best private suite in the hospital, the one reserved for visiting royalty, and, apparently, the trustees of the Thorne legacy. She was alone, by choice. She had no interest in a room full of people. There was a soft knock on the door. It was Arthur. He looked older, more frail than she'd ever seen him, but his blue eyes were sharp. "Sophia," he said, his voice a low rumble. "Arthur, come in. Meet your grandson." Arthur Thorne Sr. walked slowly to the bedside. He stared at the small, swaddled bundle, his face a mask of iron and, beneath it, a profound, aching vulnerability. "He is small," he said gruffly. "They all are at first." Sophia smiled, shifting the baby. "May I?" Arthur asked, a rare moment of uncertainty. Sophia gently passed him the child. The old man, whose hands had signed billion-dollar deals and crushed competitors, was clumsy, his large, knotted fingers fumbling with the blanket. He held Nathaniel, staring down at the tiny face. "He has the Thorne chin," Arthur said, his voice thick. "He has my eyes," Sophia replied softly. "Good." Arthur cleared his throat, but not before Sophia saw his eyes glisten. "He'll need the vision. You You did well, girl. You saved this family. You saved him. I just did what a mother had to do, she said. He nodded, handing the baby back with a reverence that touched her. Your name is on everything now. The primary accounts, the vaults. You are the sole signatory for the trust. I am retired. Fully. Arthur, you don't have to. I want to, he said. I'm tired of running an empire, Sophia. I just want to watch one grow. He reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a small, old-fashioned velvet box. It wasn't jewelry. What is this? She asked. My wife's, Elizabeth's. It's a key to our personal safe deposit box at the bank on State Street. It contains her bonds, her personal jewelry, and the original handwritten charter for this company. They are not part of the trust. They are family. They are now yours. And his. Sophia took the key, the cold metal warming in her hand. This was it. The final total transfer, not just of wealth, but of history, of legacy. Life for Marcus and Chloe settled into a new, bleak normal. Marcus, living in the sterile corporate apartment Sophia had provided, found his $250,000 salary vanished almost instantly. After taxes, court-ordered child support, which Sophia had Harding file for, and which was funneled directly into Nathaniel's education trust, untouched, and his own pathetic attempts to maintain a fraction of his old life, he was broke by the third week of every month. He tried to raise capital. He tried to start a new fund. But the word was out. He wasn't the rainmaker. He was the son who had been disinherited. He was a fool. The doors that had once flown open were now politely but firmly shut. He was at a mid-range chain restaurant in the suburbs one night, trying to get a free meal by talking business with a former low-level analyst, when he saw her. Chloe. She was not in a red silk dress. She was in a standard-issue black polo and apron. She was the hostess. Her hair was pulled back in a severe ponytail, and her face, without the expensive creams and treatments, looked tired. Their eyes met across the laminated menus. There was no spark, no lingering affection, just a flat, dull thud of mutual recognition. This was it. This was the bottom. He was the man who had lost an empire. She was the woman who had cost him. It was, in a twisted way, a reunion. They were the only two people on earth who understood the specific, humiliating nature of their fall. 6 months later, they were living together. Not in a penthouse, but in a third-floor walk-up in Somerville. Their love, built on money and glamour, had been replaced by something else. A symbiotic, bitter resentment. They were trapped, bound not by passion, but by their shared failure. The Stop and Shop sighting, which became a small, delicious piece of Boston gossip, was not a one-time event. It was their life. A lawyer from Harding's firm saw them one Tuesday night under the harsh fluorescent lights, arguing in the pasta aisle. "Just get the store brand, Marcus." Chloe's voice was a shrill whisper. "It's 50 cents cheaper." "I am not eating that garbage," he hissed back, his face blotchy. He looked a decade older, his expensive suit replaced by stained khakis. "Why don't you contribute? That joke of a job you have." "My joke of a job paid the electric bill, you useless." They were a portrait of misery. They had each other. And it was, for both of them, a fate far worse than poverty. 2 years later, the Thorne penthouse was unrecognizable. The cold marble and glass had been warmed by thick rugs, soft lighting, and shelves filled with children's books and framed photographs. There were pictures of Nathaniel, of Sophia, and even a few of a smiling Arthur holding his grandson. Tonight, the apartment was full, but not with the loud, shallow crowd Marcus had entertained. It was a gala, the first annual fundraiser for the Nathaniel Thorne Foundation for Children. The rooms were filled with Boston's real power, surgeons from Mass General, the directors of the Museum of Fine Arts, university presidents, and the quiet, old-money families who had once looked down on the Thorne name as crass and new. Sophia stood by the fireplace, poised and radiant in a simple, elegant, dark green dress. She was not a wife. She was not a mistress. She was Sophia Thorne. She tapped a glass for attention. "Good evening," she said, her voice clear and carrying. "Thank you all for coming." The Thorne name. For a long time, it was associated with aggressive acquisition, with winning. Tonight, I hope we can begin to associate it with something new, with responsibility, with community, with a legacy. Not a legacy of steel and glass, but of health, of art, and of a better, safer future for all of our children. The room erupted in genuine warm applause. In a quiet corner, Arthur Sr., now in a wheelchair, held a sleeping Nathaniel on his lap, the two of them looking out the window at the city lights. He watched Sophia, a look of profound, complete peace on his face. The legacy was secure. Later that night, after the last guest had left and the caterers had cleared, Sophia took her son from his grandfather. Arthur had fallen asleep, a content smile on his lips. Sophia walked over to the great floor-to-ceiling windows, holding her sleeping son. She looked out at the same Boston skyline that had once felt like a prison. The city glittered below, a sea of diamonds, none of them canary. She thought of the thin manila envelope she had carried that day. She thought of the pen that hadn't shaken. She had quietly brought divorce papers, and in doing so had inherited an empire, not as a wife, not as a victim, but as a mother, as a guardian. She kissed the top of Nathaniel's head. "It's a big world, my love," she whispered, her reflection and his staring back at them from the glass. "It's not a cage. It's a kingdom. And it's all yours to protect." And that's the story of how Sophia Thorne proved that a quiet signature can be louder than a lifetime of shouting. She didn't just get revenge, she secured a future. She turned her pain into power and reminded everyone that the most dangerous person in the room is often the one everyone underestimates. Marcus and Chloe thought they were winning a prize, but they forgot to check who owned the trophy. What did you think of Sophia's strategy? Was it cold and calculated, or was it the perfect move for a mother protecting her child? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. We read every single one, and your stories and insights are what make this community so special. If you loved this story of justice and karma, please hit that like button, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and most importantly, subscribe to our channel for more real-life drama and incredible twists every single week. You won't want to miss what's coming next.